Hey everyone, if you're interested in learning how to do this youthful kind of glowy natural look, then you can keep on watching and I'll show you how it's done. Okay, so we're going to start with the most important step, which is face prep. I'm going to start with an oil similar to coconut oil, and I'm going to put this all over my cleansed dry face. This is just going to help to moisturize and allow my makeup to sit nicely over top. Then I'm going to go in with some moisturizer. Now normally I would let, layers dry in between the layers, but for filming purposes I've sped this up. So then I'm going to go in with a primer. It's going to keep all my fine lines or any pores kind of filled in so that when I do apply my foundation, it's going to go on much more flawlessly. Now it's foundation time. I'm going to take my beauty blender and I'm just going to go in and start dabbing that all over my face. Now, for those of you who don't know, you do want to use your beauty blender wet always. So I like to put mine underneath the tap and just squeeze it so it gets all the way through and saturated really well. And then I squeeze it out really, really well so that it's still damp, but it's not super wet. And then you just go in and you dab all over your face in tiny little strokes. You don't want to wipe, you just want to dab, 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 pushing that product into that skin. That's going to give you that really natural finish so it still looks like skin. Now I do personally prefer using a brush to apply my foundation if I'm going for a sheer kind of natural coverage, but today I thought I would switch it up and just show you how to use the Beauty Blender. I do really prefer the Beauty Blender for a heavier coverage, so for you ladies that do like that full coverage, I do suggest the Beauty Blender just because it does still give you that natural finish with it still being a lot of product. But you guys don't take my word for it, use whatever works for you. Now I'm going in with some concealer underneath my eyes. This is the Urban Decay Creamy Concealer. I really like this for my concealer. I'm also going to take a tiny bit of the MAC, the pinky kind of peachy concealer, just so that covers any darkness underneath my eyes. And then I'm just going in with that wet Beauty Blender again and just really going to town on blending. Now, I do like to make sure that there is no creasing going on underneath my eyes before I set it with a powder. And I do always like to set all of my liquid foundations or cream foundations with a powder. Now what that does is it's just going to keep your makeup on longer and last longer. I really, really like using a damp beauty blender for going underneath my eyes with a powder to set. Now you just saw me kind of wiping away some product because it already started to crease. So that's where you got to be really careful that you don't set it as it's already creasing, because then it will stay creased like that for the whole day. So you're just doing the exact same thing. You're going to go in and dab that powder all over the foundation that you just put on, and that's just going to keep it on all day for you. Now, some of us find that once we put that powder on, even though it is a translucent powder, we feel a little too white. So this is where I like to go in sometimes with just like a warmer tone. I'm going in with the Hourglass kind of flawless finish there. You can also use the MAC Skin Finish. That's really good. Or you can almost use a really light bronzer as well. Now this will just warm up your complexion. I'm just doing the exact same thing where I'm dabbing all over my face. And you'll see already I'm looking warmer so that I don't look so dead. If you do choose to do this, just make sure you don't use too dark of a color so that it looks like, a different color on your face as opposed to your neck. You do want to make sure it's still very close to your skin tone. Time for eyebrows now. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you guys can kind of tell that I like using a powder for my eyebrows. I just find it is much softer of a finish. So I just go in with any kind of matte eyeshadow in a color similar to my hair color. And I'm just going to take tiny little hair strokes with a angle brush and just following the natural kind of shape of my eyebrow. Now, this may take some practice for you at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually quite easy. So you're just following that natural brush strokes or hair strokes of your eyebrow and doing very, very small strokes. And then I always start at the kind of outer corner or away from the inner corner so that the majority of the product goes to that, and then whatever is left on the brush, then I'll take that in closer to the inside of the face. It just gives a nicer kind of transition to your eyebrows. Now it's time for blush. I'm not going to do much of a bronzer today, so I'm just going to take on a fluffy brush some of the blush and just kind of lightly dab it on there. Make sure you're blending really, really well. I start kind of near the apple and work my way up and just make sure it's nice and blended out. Now this is just a personal preference of mine, but I like to take my blush onto the tip of my nose as well. Some people like this and some people don't. Totally your own preference. Now I'm going to go in with an all over kind of matte eyeshadow to do my entire eye base. So I like to use a color similar to my eye to begin with. And I'm just taking that in the outer corner where your eye well is naturally there, where your crease is. And then I take it all over the lid as well. So just blend, blend, blend. That's always the trick, ladies. I know you hear it all the time, but that is the trick. Then I'm going to go in with a kind of pinky color, and I'm going to take that exactly where I just took the other. And you just gotta do tiny, tiny bits of layers, and that's gonna give you the best kind of blending option. So just taking that underneath as well. I do like a smoked out look of shadow on the bottom as well. It's just a soft kind of smoky look. And then I'm just gonna take an even darker color just in that crease there until I get it looking the way I want. And same with the other eye. This is just going to give your eye a lot of depth, which is what you kind of want. You want some shadows and depth in your face, and that'll be the best for you. Now I'm going to take that darker color and I'm going to go along the bottom over top of that other shadow we just did. This is going to give you a really good dimension to your eyes. Now the next step is going to be taking a kind of denser brush and I'm spraying it with a setting spray, and I'm going to be taking a very sparkly color on the inner lid there, and that's just going to really brighten it up through there. Now if you're using sparkles of any kind, I highly recommend you use a setting spray and using it wet so that it stays on your eyelid. Otherwise, if you don't do this, I find that all the sparkles fall down onto your face, and that is not a look that you want to do. You can also use like a sparkle glue, but I personally prefer a setting spray. Using a setting spray also helps your colors to look more vibrant. Now I'm going to go in with a shadow for liner. So I'm just taking a matte black shadow, and I'm just with an angle brush taking that in short little strokes along the top of my eyelid there and underneath as well, just following my lash line. Try not to poke yourselves in the eyes, it happens. I'm just going to do the same on the other side. This is going to give me a good base for a really natural eye, but I am going to put a false lash on, and this will just help to conceal that. Now I'm going in with my favorite mascara. I am a ride or die for the L'Oreal Voluminous Waterproof Mascara. It's just works best for me, gives the best volume. But again, personal preference, so you guys do what works for you. Now I'm just taking that all over my upper and my lower lids. Some of you also prefer it only on the top, and that's totally fine. I really like mine along the bottom. I just think it gives your eye a lot more kind of pop, but that is just me. I like to give my mascara a couple little coats there. It just seems to work better for me, gives it more volume. I am going to be using a false lash today. I'm going to be using my very favorite Ardell, the Wispies, along with the House of Glue Black Glue, which is also my favorite. Now, as I've said before, you're going to want to use a very small line of glue along the lash line there, and you're going to let it almost dry completely before you put it on your eye. This is the trick to false lashes. So I'm going to let that dry, and while it's drying, I'm going to go in with some highlighter. I am ride or die for the Hourglass highlighters just because I find that they're really, really natural, but at the same time give your face such a nice inner glow. They're by far my favorite natural kind of highlight. I also like to take that along the bridge of my nose and just at the top of my cheekbones there. You could also do your forehead and your chin if you want. I don't like to do my forehead because it's big enough as it is, so I tend to not want to highlight that area. I'm also just going kind of underneath my brow bone just to give some highlight through there as well. Now this eyelash should be nice and ready to stick on. So the best way to do it is looking down at your mirror. That is by far the easiest way to put on a false lash. I like to place it in the middle and then kind of take the outer edge and place it where I want. And once that's on, then I do the inner edge and do that. Then I like to go along the lash line and just pinch my lashes together to get a really seamless kind of connection between the false lash and my natural lash. So now you're just going to do the exact same thing with the other eyelash. You're going to apply a thin layer of glue to the lash line, and you're going to let it dry almost to dryness. So you're going to have it like tacky, like gum kind of texture. And while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm just going to clean off my lips for Lipsense. And then my glue should be ready to go. And once it is, we're going to do the exact same thing. Looking down into your mirror, you're going to place it above your lash line in the middle, and then you're going to take the outer corner and attach it, and then the inner corner and attach it, and then squeeze that lash line until it has a seamless connection with your own lashes. Now, if you guys are not using a black glue for your eyelashes, I would suggest going back in with a liquid liner or a black gel liner to go over top of that lash line to conceal that glue. Now it's time for lips. I'm going to go in with my Lipsense. I am going to be layering some colors today. This is the funnest part about Lipsense, is you can make any color you want and it will last all day. So first layer, you're going to go only one way, and you're going to do a very, very thin layer of Lipsense. This is the key to keeping it on all day. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the upper lip. And then you're going to completely let that dry. And once that is dry, then you are free to go in with another color for another very, very thin layer. It is very important that your Lipsense is completely dry before you go in with the second color. So I'm going in with another color. Same thing, you're going to take a thin layer, going one way only, otherwise you will remove the color. And then you're going to do the same thing on the top lip. And then you're going to repeat the whole process over again with a third layer in just a second here once your lips are dry again. And now we're going to go in with our third color. At this point you kind of know the drill, so I'm just going to speed it on up here. Now that we are finally done with all three of our layers, I know that was super boring for everyone, but now you can go in with your gloss, and you can go any which way with your gloss. And as soon as your gloss is on, you can put your lips together finally, and you can kiss, you can eat, you can drink, and your color will not remove itself from your face. That's right, I just said that. And that concludes our look. I think I'm pretty happy with it. Thanks everyone for watching, and let me know what you want to see next. Thanks for tuning in.